All right, you all welcome to this class. This is the introduction to automation testing training for the QAs in the current internship with Blue Sky Citadel. So, and just before I go on, I would quickly introduce myself. So my name is Patricia Emmanuel, and I'm an information systems assurance and security specialist. I'm also a consultant, a career coach, IT tutor, and mentor. So today is all about getting you into the boat of learning automation testing. So I would want us to have an idea of what the agenda is here tonight. So we're going to have a learning objective, and we'll go into what automation testing is, why it is important, okay, types of automation testing. We'll talk about common automation testing tools, and we have your key takeaway in this class. So by the end of the session, you will be able to define automation testing, its importance. You'll be able to identify the different types of automation testing, and you'll be able to identify automation test scripts and test data, and also recognize common automation testing tools, and as well understand the benefits and challenges of automation testing. Included in this training tonight are illustrations and examples of what does an automation test look like. Because it's important that you know what we are talking about, and we are not just talking theory. You can visualize what it looks like. So, what is automation testing? It's a process that involves the use of automated tools and scripts to conduct tests. And what do you conduct this test on? You conduct this test on software application. The tools you use to conduct these tests are also softwares. Okay, so instead of manually executing test cases, I'm sure we all have an idea now of how to execute test cases. Okay, so you have an application, and I'll use a simple example. You want to do a search on a web application. You want to search for items, okay? The first thing you do, you're able to navigate to that web application, and that application opens up. Say, for example, Amazon. You want to search, you want to buy some gifts, some Christmas gifts for your family members. So what do? You go into the search box and you type in the item you have in mind. And when you type in that item that you have in mind, you expect it to return a list of those items with in different colors or whatever brands. All right, but you've only just searched for that item. So what you've done in that at that point, you are manually testing. You've done a manual search. That is you. You've actually like type on your keyboard, okay, for that item. And if you are not doing that typing by yourself, some kind of software is doing that for you. Okay, so instructions are written using the software to do that manual test for you. Okay. Now, what is really interesting with automation testing is that it helps you to get a better quality software. It builds the quality of the software is better with less effort. Okay. When you do manual testing as well, you can get the output of a quality software, but the effort required is higher. Do you understand? So when you apply an automation testing software to help you do that, the effort is reduced and it saves money. But we're going to get to the benefits and use of automation testing. So in comparison to manual testing as well, your the test cases that come across as repetitive test cases, the automation testing can run those testing multiple times without additional effort. Because if you have to search for item A, item B, item C manually, it takes some effort, right? But if you apply an automation testing tool, okay, it will run those searches for you without any additional effort. So the speed and efficiency as well qualifies automation testing as a better approach, okay, in terms of the speed of executing tests, the effort, the reduced effort, okay, and the time saving ability. In addition to that, the consistency, okay, automation provides a consistent and reproducible result for you. If you run the same test case multiple times, it will yield the same result. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain that. When you're executing tests manually, some factors can contribute to your test not giving you the same results compared to automation testing. Why? Human factors. You might be tired. Your attention is not 100%. And again, the level of experience of the tester or the understanding of the tester. All right. So another reason why you would compare automation testing to manual testing is that the automation testing allows for early detection of defects in the software development lifecycle. Because automation tests can be integrated into the CI/CD pipeline, the continuous integration and continuous deployment pipeline. You're still going to get to that to a point where we explain that to you and you understand that. Perhaps some of you have heard about that before. So the tests run in the CI pipeline and it provides quick feedback to the development team. Okay, so you can please put your questions in the chat, well, in the chat, then we'll pick up those questions at the end of the class. So I just want everyone to kind of follow through, then we'll come back to that. At some point, I would also pause to address those questions, okay? So automation testing summarily, okay, is used for regression testing. We all know what regression testing is. If we do know what regression testing is, please type that in the chat. By now, I believe you should have an understanding of what regression testing is. If you know what regression testing is, please put that in the chat for me. All right. The screen is not frozen. Um, all right. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Does anyone know? Okay. Does anyone know what regression testing is? If you do, please put that in the chat. Okay. So automation testing is primarily used for regression testing. Oh, fantastic. I can see, yeah, Adijat, I can see you. You know what it's used for. You know what regression testing is, Esther. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's good that you're following. So it's used for regression testing. It's used for repetitive task. Okay, when you have to do some manual testing, and it's just a repetitive functionality. Okay, Rose says test that code changes have not broken the system. Fantastic. I needed someone to put that description there. Thank you very much for that, Rose. So, and it's used to handle regression testing, repetitive tasks, and also it helps, like I said earlier, it helps to provide quick feedback in the development process. There's also the concept of cross-browser testing, okay, which you will need to do automation testing. You can do cross-browser testing manually. However, the effort required using automation is reduced, okay? And you you can also you also be able to give rapid feedback in the development process. So somebody said retesting. Okay, retesting is different from regression testing. Okay, and I'm going to quickly explain that. So for retesting, you are testing a bug that has been fixed. That is retesting. When you're testing a bug that has been fixed, that is retesting. Retesting is not regression testing. Okay, please note that. Thank you very much for that. So I've quickly touched on that. And I'm going to talk about the types of automation testing. So as a as a QA, it's important for you to know, okay, that your developers too, they do write tests. And the type of testing your developer writes are unit tests and integration tests, okay? Sometimes your developer will unit testing is a requirement for developers, okay? They need to unit test their implementation. They test individual components of functions of their application. That is unit testing. And when they write their test, their test also runs in the CD pipeline. So the process of that test running in the CI/CD pipeline is also automation. So I want you to be clear on that. Sometimes they have to write integration tests. So the integration test examines how various components or modules interact when integrated into a complete system. So what integration testing does is to verify that these components work together, okay? It says testing interactions between components. So just see it as a progressive type of testing. The developer tests individual components now, and that is unit testing. They can also do integration testing. That is the interaction between components. Okay? Now, we have functional testing. Here, we are validating functional aspects of the application. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the functionalities that are in alignment with the specified requirements. For example, if you have gone on any travel booking website, The functional testing there would involve verifying that users can search for flights, users can select seats, users can make reservations, and users can receive confirmations as expected. Okay? It validates the functional aspects of the application. Then we have regression testing. We've talked about that, ensuring that a new code change has not broken an existing functionality. We know what regression testing is, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Now we have load testing. So load testing evaluates an application's behavior under every user loads to ensure that it can handle the expected traffic without slowing down the system or crashing the system. We'll give an example. Let's talk about a social media platform. Let's take, for example, MentorSkid. Say, MentorSkid is a social media platform. I'm sure you know what MentorSkid is. It's a social media platform where we have a community of mentors showcasing their skills and their availability for consultancy or for support from mentees. Now, when launching this particular tool, is a social media platform, I've explained what it does. What the load testing does is that it ensures that this system, okay, can handle a large number of users when they're creating their accounts. Because 100 people could be creating accounts at the same time. If the requirement says 100 people should be able to create user accounts at the same time, if you see that kind of description in any requirement, the type of testing that scenario requires is load testing. Because you are the only tester in the team and you've seen that kind of requirement, even if the BA does not understand as a QA, you will be the one that will teach the team and tell the team, there's no way I can reproduce myself 100 times functionally testing this. This is going to require load testing. Okay? So users can decide to use an application in multiple ways. And the business is written a requirement to say 1,000 people should be able to use to do ABC at the same time. Okay. So the type of testing you would need to do when you're getting that kind of requirement is load testing, and is a type of automation testing. Okay. Now we also have GUI testing. This is where you are validating the graphical user interface. And what this type of testing focuses on is ensuring that the UI functions correctly. And what is it checking? When we're talking about the graphical user interface, we are looking at buttons, menus, and other elements on the UI. Any element that you can click, okay, is a UI functionality. Am I making sense? If I am, please put 1111 in the chat. All right. Thank you. So I'll give you another example again to open up your thinking capacity. Okay. We all use mobile applications. So the GUI testing that you'll be doing on a mobile application will be to verify that buttons any button you touch, okay, is responding.
No.
Okay, we need somebody there to mute whoever is speaking in the background.
Oh,
So someone is speaking in the background. Admin, can you mute? Yeah, all right, thank you. So I'm going to take that again. The GUI testing that you do on a mobile app is a testing that verifies that the buttons on the application, we all know a mobile app, anyone uses okay, any mobile app that you've used to do money transfer, that's just an example. You use it for money transfer. When any button you type, okay, any button you touch, okay, or any button that you click, it opens and closes smoothly. You are moving from one screen to the other on your phone. The screen are transitioning without any errors. So that is what we call GUI testing. It's done on a web application. It's done on a mobile app. All right. And I'm going to talk about the mobile testing as well briefly. So you can do test mobile apps on different devices, Android, iOS. You can do automation testing on this or automation testing on mobile devices. So it involves testing these mobile applications across the various devices, across various screen sizes, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 14. You can imagine the screens are different. And if it's an Android user using Samsung S7, S6, compared to whatever they have now, is S23 or yeah. So you have various screen sizes and the operating systems. Those are the things that you test on the mobile device. You're testing mobile apps on different devices to ensure consistency, performance, and usability. So, in summary, where I'm going with this list of types of automation is to clarify or demystify any confusion about automation testing. Automation testing is not just using Selenium WebDriver and clicking around the web page. Okay, because I see that a lot of people think that is what automation testing is all about. No. So I'm going to move on. So common automation testing tools. So we have Selenium for web application testing. We have Appium for mobile application testing, iOS and Android. Now we have the testing frameworks that are used for writing test scripts. Yes, we do have test scripts in automation testing. The same way you have test scripts for manual testing, we have test scripts for automation testing. You just need to know how to write your script. So when writing automation, okay? And we have the Cucumber and SpecFlow for behavioral-driven development. So if you've used Cucumber before or SpecFlow, you have an exposure to both. Just put that in the chat. Let's have a quick read and see who. Yes, okay. If you've used Cucumber, just type Cucumber or SpecFlow. If you have exposure to either of both, let's know. So if you've done some Java automation testing, you would have used Cucumber. It's not the Cucumber veggies that we eat. Okay, it's just that veggie is just fortunate to share a name with a test automation tool. Okay, Alex. Yeah, cucumber on IntelliJ. Fantastic, Alex. All right. So, okay. So we'll move on. Uh, I would touch on some of this quickly. So Selenium, most popular, okay? It's a widely used open source tool. So for those people who don't know what open source it means is a tool that you don't need to pay for. That's just is you can just go use download it as a from a library or Visual Studio. It's open. So any tool that anytime you hear open source, it's a tool that you can use without the need to pay for it. So it's used to automate web applications. Okay. So with Selenium as a tester, it helps you to script the interactions with web pages. Okay. So now I'm going back to the explanation in the beginning. Selenium is a software, and it's going to help you as a user to script interactions with web pages. You've been manually interacting with web pages. You typing on your computer keyboard and clicking or moving your mouse around to click, okay? And following some workflow, okay? But what Selenium does is that Selenium does that for you. Selenium clicks the buttons, Selenium fills out the forms, and Selenium validates the page content. Appium is also an open source tool. It's used for automating mobile applications on both platforms, iOS and Android. It will, like Selenium as well, Appium will help the tester to write your test across the platforms. Then the testing frameworks, your JUnit, your TestNG, your NUnit, your MS Test, JavaScript, TypeScript. These are popular frameworks. So they provide the structure. We know when you hear frameworks, another name you can say call a framework, a synonym is structure. They provide the testing structure, testing framework for writing the test script. You write the test scripts and they also help you execute the test scripts. So the other tools that I would like to mention here, we have Cypress these days. People are using Cypress. They're using Playwright. Okay, I would suggest you can go and read up about these ones. Okay, they are equally very good and easy to use tools and automation test tool and framework. And that is like a pictorial view. There are loads of them. There are loads of them out there. I don't know if you've heard about anyone on this screen that you have not that I didn't talk about in the previous scripts in the previous slide. Let me know. I've talked about Appium, BDD. Yeah, Visual Studio is a tool that we use. That's the ID that we'll use for Selenium framework setup with C#. So we have JavaScript, we have Java, Maven, yeah, all this Jenkins. Yeah, you can create a CI/CD pipeline in Jenkins. So we have all sorts. There's just loads of them. These are just these are just a few. Okay. Now I'm going to. So does this scare anyone here? Is anyone scared here? You're seeing you're seeing red, green, yellow, some blue and white. Is anyone scared here? Oh, okay. Don't be scared. Yeah, somebody said are people still using VB script? I think some companies may like some old school banks. They're still using VB script. Um, yeah, somehow I did just say it's getting real. Now you can see codes. Yeah. Please don't be scared. Don't be scared at all. It's just important for you to, now I'll go back to that slide. It's just important for you to uh, start getting familiar to seeing screens like this. Really, the background could have been white, okay? So you can decide the kind of background you want on your IDE. So that is entirely up to you. And so what you can see here are code snippets. All right, they are code snippets, and this is the JavaScript. Okay, so the JavaScript here is this is actually a Selenium JavaScript test. Can somebody explain what this test is doing? Whatever is familiar to you from what you've done manually, can anybody explain this? Please give it a try. And I'll just give you an hint. Just focus on the greens here, on the green, and look at this. Focus on the greens and look at this. So, and look at what we're expecting to see. Okay, I think some people login test with username and password. Yes. So this is exactly what this JavaScript code snippet that you can see is doing. And it's using Selenium WebDriver, as you can see here. It's using that Selenium WebDriver library. Now, all the functions that you're seeing, all the commands here, they are the framework. Okay. So I need you to understand they are the structure that are expected to be part of that automation script that you want to write. They are the enablers. Okay, just see them as enablers. Some developer has written this and created them as a library, as a framework, as a structure somewhere, and everyone all over the world is using this as a tester. Okay, you want to write your automation test. So that's what you need to see all this as. There are functions, there are commands, okay, and you just need to understand. So the find driver.find element, yeah, is a Selenium command, okay. So because we have Selenium would works in such a way that you need to find the element, and you're still going to get to the training where how to find elements are. been defined. So you find the element. So it's the element that you use. So if you're using the element by the name, and the element name in the application is username, okay, that's what you put. But there are different different elements, different element types, okay, that you can use. It could be by name, by ID, by CSS, by XPath. So these are common interview questions. So how do you find elements? What kind of element locators? So they call them element locators, okay? This name is a locator. So the locator could be ID, could be, but I don't want to confuse. That's not the class that we're doing. We are just laying foundation here tonight. So this is saying find the element by name, the username and the send key is a command, and it's saying when you say send key, you have to type. Selenium is going to have to type in whatever you put in here. When you see .click, Selenium is going to click. Okay, so send keys is type this in. All right, so just note that. So this test is just saying login with username, login with password, username, this is a username, type it in. Password, this is a password, type it in. And when you type it in, give us the example, welcome example, and click. So once it does that, it does the typing in and it clicks the application, it clicks the button, then what you instructed Selenium to do at that instance is that it has followed the instruction. It has opened the browser, typed in the password and username, and it has completed the test up to where you are able to see the welcome. Okay, and it quits the browser. Now, if you go into this is a TypeScript example. So JavaScript and TypeScript kind of works the same way, but this TypeScript in this instance is using Cypress. All right. So where Selenium is saying driver, do this, Cypress is saying Cypress, visit. Okay. It's saying Cypress, get me the username. So the same way JavaScript is finding the element, Cypress is saying, giving the command, get the locator for this. So all of this, you would have exposure to them later on. So, and now I'm going to talk about this one. Earlier I talked about unit tests as well. Unit tests and integration tests. Also, I said they are tests that can also be automated. All right. Now, this is a test. When you see public void, this is actually a Java unit test, a JUnit framework. But in this case, we can't see any use of Selenium here. All right. So this is just like this is a test that is checking the add functionality to check if this particular component, I would say, is working. And why do I know that? What we are trying to find out is this. Because this is an operation and a test has been executed here to say, calculator, please add this and this. All right. And it does the addition. And we come to the assertion, we come to that says the result is 7. If the developer has not written the code that enables this functionality properly, we will not get this. For example, as a tester, if this says calculator dot add, all right, and we get the result 7 as 7, what this tells me is that this particular command is working as expected, because everyone knows what the add functionality is. It takes a number and another number, and it add these numbers, 2 numbers together to get a result. So that functionality on this particular calculator is working. So that is a test that does not involve any Selenium. It's just a function and an operation that has been written by the developer to say, I want to find out if this works. If it works, just confirm for me. And that is what the assertion does. You're going to hear about assert. You do assertions a lot in your Selenium C# automation, which is what you're going to be doing on this internship. Okay. Now we have another test here. This is Java. We have another one here. Same for the calculator test. And this is also taking into consideration the operation add in a calculator. Okay. And you're expecting the result to give you an integer. This is what that means. To give you an integer equal 7. And that is what we are looking at here. So it's pretty straightforward. Over time, if you keep, and I think you're going to, in the context of the internship, you're going to be looking at the C# area a lot, because you will be working with C#, Selenium, WebDriver on Visual Studio, and you'll be using the unit test framework or the spec. We have the SpecFlow runner as well. You'll be using that. So don't be scared. It's easy. It's easy. Just pay attention to the foundations, and then you start picking it up one after the other. Now, I want to talk about automation test scripts. So I'll quickly say something about myself. So I remember when I started working, using for the learning automation many years ago. In fact, I learned a lot on the job many years ago. When the developer is asking questions and saying, what about you? What approach are you going to use for your scripts? I can't see your automation scripts. I can't see. And I just wonder, I have to write automation tests, and they keep talking about your automation scripts and where are your scripts? Where are your scripts? And because I was using SpecFlow, and I was actually using the NUnit framework, writing the test without the SpecFlow on some projects. Okay, different companies, and some were using the SpecFlow. So whenever they talked about the script, I just wonder, why is this person saying scripts? Because I only write manual test scripts. But over the years, I now realize in my, self-study and all that, I now realize that, okay, the actual steps that I also add to my automation test framework are also test scripts. So as you write test scripts for manual testing, you can reuse those test scripts in your automation test. The only difference is that when you're putting those tests in the automation test, you have to ensure the structure is consistent. So there is also a concept of test scripting in automation test. I don't want people to get confused or get carried away with, oh, we manual testing scripts. So you can actually go to a stand-up and say, oh, yesterday I was working on my, because the moment that I realized the script thing in automation, so I'll just get to stand up and say, okay, yesterday I was working on the automation test scripts for the search functionality on this application. I'm writing the test script for this particular user scenario end to end. I'm still working on the script. So I could be working on scripts for a couple of days. All right. So these things, you will learn a lot while you're doing it. But just please, I would say, open up your mind. You're going to enjoy doing this. You will enjoy it. And once you understand the basic concepts and you're also dedicated to your learning objectives and the things you need to know to get you at that confident level. In fact, this foundational training tonight on automation testing, if you rewatch it and go back to do your own self-study as well, you'll find out that your confidence will be raised to a point where you're not afraid to go into automation testing. Okay, you will really, really enjoy it. So these scripts, they are codes, they are the programs. So when you are writing your code to automate the testing of a software, what you are doing is scripting. Because these codes are the things, are the programs that are they are the programs, the commands, the functions, they are the methods that you write that would help the Selenium you're working with to interact with the application. Selenium has inbuilt commands. You will learn all those along the way. So whenever you're writing, instead of saying, okay, sometimes you can say, I'm writing my code. I'm writing the code to test this particular user story. You can say, I'm scripting for this user story. I'm writing the automation scripts for this user story. So these scripts will interact with the application. They will simulate the user actions. What are the actions that the user does? Click, move, navigate, drop down, all of these are user actions. Type, they are user actions. And you do all of that to verify that the applications are doing the work that they need to do. And of course, this is where we are going. One of the commonly used languages for writing these scripts is C#. So your scripts are the code that you write. They are the languages. And it's just that you need to give your system the language that it understands. So the C# you need for automating tests is what you need to know now. Okay, and pay attention to knowing that. All right. So let's say, for example, you have a login scenario and you need to use C#, Selenium WebDriver, and say an NUnit framework. What do you need to see? What do you want to see? So this is what it's going to look like. Okay, let's move this out of the way. Can everyone see my screen clearly?
Yes.
So in this example, what do we want to do? We want to automate the testing of a login functionality on a web application. So guys, login is the simplest example I can use here, but please know login very well, all right? But don't limit yourself to login example when you are out there in an interview. You need to learn, you can pick search, you can pick registration, and you can try all of this by yourself. And if you feel you need help while doing that, in your project teams, speak to a mentor, put it in your QA guild, and somebody will pick that up for you. But also remember to try to do this by yourself when it gets to that point. Do what you need to do. Ask questions at the class. But when you need to do things by yourself, don't restrict yourself to doing what you've learned, but also do a bit more so that you get familiar with it, you get used to it. So with the C# language, you can write your test script to perform the steps. And what are the steps? So we talked about framework. So this is a framework that NUnit provides. It provides the setup, the tests, the tear down. If you create any tests, if you are using an NUnit framework, NUnit framework, it creates this structure for you. So in fact, the moment you see anything like this, you would know the libraries that that particular automation framework or that particular code is using. And why am I saying this? Sometimes you might find yourself much later after I grew as a tester and all, I grew more confident. I didn't get scared of looking into a developer's code anymore. And it's possible, sometimes I get into the developer's code and I see a lot of, sometimes theirs don't have or Selenium, or because they don't use it. The developers, they don't really go to Selenium. And sometimes they don't even know how to use it. They don't know how Selenium works. So don't get scared that, oh, the developer, because they are developers, they know how everything works. You just need to be able to work closely with your developer to understand a little bit more from there because they write code and they understand it more. They understand it better, I would say. So when I talk about libraries, in Visual Studio, we call them packages. So when you start to work on your Visual Studio, you're going to see Nugget packages. So you'll be able to download Selenium WebDriver. You'll be able to download the browser driver, Chrome driver, Edge. Yeah, this could be Chrome, it could be Edge. So this Chrome is a browser. Everybody, we all use Chrome browser here, don't we? Okay, so Selenium has its own Chrome library for the browser that you can use. Then we have this NUnit framework. And this is what this test has done. The same test. So it's saying, and what you see here, so the first thing it does from this setup, so the first thing it does, it defines the driver, okay? So it's like saying, I recognize that you, driver, you are here. So it uses the Selenium command to define the driver. And again, it goes to the setup to say, okay, driver, I'm asking you to recognize this new Chrome driver. Now it's saying, I want you to recognize, and it's called initialize the web driver. Say, I want you to recognize that the driver that you need to use in this situation is a Chrome driver, because this is global. I'll just say, just think about it like this is a global description here. I'm not going to do a lot of technical talks. This is like a global description here. And it's saying, I know web driver you are there, but I want to call you by this name, driver. Okay. Now that I know that you're a driver, and you could put anything into your driver, it's like your variable. Okay. We'll talk about that one later. So and you go into the initialization method. So all these are methods. Anytime you see public is a method. Public void, something, ABCD, whatever, is a method, is a method. So all of this too, you will learn that over time. Just go with the flow and pay attention. So it's initializing the web driver here, and it's saying, I want you to use Chrome driver. All right. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I want to know if you are following and if you understand this. So assuming what I have here is dot edge, what would change here? Does anybody know?
Edge driver.
Oh my goodness, I love you guys. I'm just smiling here. Thank you. Ah, you guys are so smart. So is there anybody here who doesn't understand why we got to that point? Because we are not even writing any code here. Okay, we are not writing any code. We're just, talking ourselves through what this looks like. Okay, nobody has typed in anything. All right, fantastic. Great. And then the actual tests. And I just take it that these are your test steps. Everything you are doing here is scripting. You are giving the computer the language it understands to be able to do all of it. So everything you're doing here is scripting. Now, this is where you write your actual test steps. You know those test steps you've written manually in Azure DevOps, all right? You now replicate that in form using that C# language. So what we now have here is we navigate to the login page. So because our driver now recognizes that whatever I do, I need to go straight to the Chrome driver, because the instruction is that I'm using the Chrome driver for this test. So I don't need to say Chrome driver again or pick this driver, because this is stored in this. And I say, driver, what I need you to do, navigate. This is a command. It's a Selenium command. Navigate. I'm saying just move, drive, go towards this direction. Navigate dot go to URL. Every time you want to send Selenium to a URL, this is what you use. Go to URL, and all you just need to do is to copy your URL, www.patriciaemmanuel.com/login or www.alexjohnson.com/login. That's just, you just paste that in there. All right. And it opens up the browser. What do you want to do there? I want to enter the username. It opens up the browser. Okay, so a quick one so you understand. This URL is going straight to the login page. Okay. If it ends here and there's no login here, it's only going to get you as far as the landing page. Then you still now have to write another test, another step, okay, to click on the login. But this particular instruction here has skipped that. It's just saying go straight to the login page. Okay, so we've initialized the browser and we've asked it to navigate to the login page to interact with the web elements. That is what we are doing here. We say interact with the web element username field. And this is really explanatory. So, and we are defining this username field. We are telling this username field to hold this, because we still need to, because this driver is the one working. Driver is, okay, in this case, driver is our hand that we're using to type and move the mouse. Just look at it in that scenario. So you're just saying, okay, instead of us saying, click on the username field here, we are saying this driver, Selenium, click, find the element username. We're going to show you how to find the element locators, okay? And another step says, I'll need you to do the same for the password. And the reason why I need you to find this and find this is because the next steps for me is to type in the username and the password. Because when you find this for me, you store it here. You find this for me, you store it here. Then I take this username field. I say, you found this username for me. You know where it is. So go there and type in, this is Watson Kids, and type in test user. I said, thank you very much for that. Go back to the password field, because you found where that password functionality is located, and type in test password. So assuming those are the username and password. So it types it in, and I go back to the next step. I say, kindly click on the login button for me. And that is what it's doing here. But before it clicks on the login button, always remember, driver, Selenium, you need to know where they are. Look at it this way. You're on the screen. You are a Selenium WebDriver. You don't know, if you don't look very well, how would you know whether the login is on the top left and the username is on the top left, and the login, let's say the login functionality, when you click on it, so the username and password, sometimes it could be at the middle left or center of the screen, or at the right hand side, so you can see visually. But Selenium is a software. So what you are using your eyes to see, you are asking Selenium to go and find it, because you've written a program, you've written an instruction for it on how to find it, and that's what it's going to do exactly. So just think about it this way. You find my locator and do the action. Find my locator, do the action. If you understand that, find my locator, do the action. Find my location, do the action. If you understand that concept about Selenium, then you are just one step ahead. Because you cannot ask it to do the action when you have not identified they look it up. So that is what you need to put in at the back of your mind or front of your mind, wherever you want to put it, but just make sure you don't lose that simple explanation. All right. And finally, you say, verify that when I log in, all right. So for the login, the instruction is click. I mentioned that earlier. So it clicks on the login button and, excuse me, I click on the login button and I say verify that as soon as you click on the login button, I want to be taken to the user dashboard. You know, we've all logged into different websites before. So by the time you enter your username and password, it goes to a dashboard or where it could be your personal profile dashboard, or it just take you straight to whatever the application does. And in this case, this is saying that this is the final step is for us to perform an assertion to verify that the login process is successful. And that is exactly what it's doing here. Please verify that this process is successful. Because the URL at the beginning is this. But the moment you've successfully logged in, the URL changes to this. You can verify using different things, using different components. However, in this case, what we are verifying is the current URL. So I've logged in successfully. What is my current URL looking like? My expectation is that based on the requirements that the business have described, user successfully logs in, they should find themselves on the dashboard. So this is what this is looking at. Now, and I'm going to say something because there are some things that automation will not catch. So please put it at the back of your mind, and I'm going to explain this to you. So it's possible, I'm just saying, that you pay attention to detail, and it's one of those skills that is really, really important. It's possible you are able to verify this, that the current URL is actually displaying this. But something could go wrong with the system. The URL is right. However, you are looking at the screen. It is blank. So you're going to have to investigate why that is happening. This test will pass, but in the scenario that I just mentioned now, for me, that test has not passed 100%. So sometimes you may decide not to check that the URL is the final step of your test. You might decide to add the screenshot functionality where you'll be able to find out that the page is that displayed was not a blank page or a page with error. So as a manual tester as well, these little things matter. The checks that you need to do to actually see it works 100%. All right, that's just a digression. That's me not following my script. But I just thought to put that out there so that you understand. Please, have I made some sense with this explanation here? All right, so I think someone is trying to. All right, thank you, Esther. Thank you, Esther. All right, thank you, Esther. Okay, so someone is trying to ask why we have the double slash. this is your comment components on Visual Studio. So you put the double slash just to describe what you're doing at every step. You put it there at every step, but it is not what you need. This is for the purpose of training, but it's not what you need to do when you're actually doing your work. So, okay, you don't need to, but because you're still learning, put it there so we know what you're doing. All right. And the framework, it ends here, or with any unit frameworks, you end up closing the browser. Once you finish running your test, you say close the browser. You don't want to leave your browser on for that long. So that is it. Now, that is a test executed without the use of SpecFlow BDD. All right. So I am going to talk about automation tests. Test scripts. Yes, SpecFlow BDD will script that. We know what BDD. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now that's
All
better.
right. Sorry. Okay. So automation testing using BDD. So BDD is behavior-driven development. Like the previous examples I've given, they provide a framework for you. However, BDD is written in Gherkin language. Now, this time around, the language we are putting out there is written in the given, when, then structure. I'm sure, has anybody written any BDD test before? Have you written something like this before? Given, when, then. Have you? Okay. Fantastic. Okay, in your manual test cases. Okay. Thank you, Hebel. Thank you, Esther. All right. So the essence of BDD is to give you a simple way of writing tests where you don't have to you have that description around the code that you're going to write. So it makes it easy for whoever is reading whoever is looking at your test framework, they understand. So it's good for the business, it's good for the developers, it's good for you as a tester. Say someone is moving on from the role you are being employed, and the person has been writing their tests in BDD. It will be easy for you to pick up that framework and run with it because you understand the BDD test and how it works. So even if you don't know how the application works, if you pick the simplest scenario, and I'm going to put it out here now. So for example, if you find yourself employed to work on a BDD test framework that somebody else has written, and most likely they employ you before the person leaves, so the person can explain the framework. But if they don't, and they hand over the framework to you, so that is an existing framework that you're going to be working on. So you could be employed for different reasons. Start a framework from the scratch for us, or work on an existing framework. So the first question you would ask in that instance, is to ask for the entry point. Okay. Where is the entry point? What's the first thing a user needs to do before they get into this application? it's easy for us to always assume it's login. Sometimes it's not. There might be a process that exists in that company because companies have different things that they do. Maybe the user would be a type of user for another system. Maybe that's a precondition before they can use that system that you are going to be working on. So you need to know what questions to ask. And if it's just a simple website and they told you that, okay, this is how it works, or you ask somebody to walk you through the application. And the simplest part of it is asking somebody to walk you through that application. And this is for a framework that is existing, an application that is in use. Because if it's existing, probably the application is in use already, whether deployed to life or not. So you should know the kind of question to ask. And that is why if anyone has used the BDD framework, the spec flow, to write their test, it will be easy for you to pick up, even if it's an API test framework. Even if it's an API, if it's API testing where you're not going to see any UI, you are not clicking on buttons, you are not clicking on anything, even if it's an API and the person has used BDD spec flow, you're just going to be happy. You'll just be smiling at the screen when you see it. Because the major challenge is usually that if you don't understand what the test is doing, you might end up saying you have to start yours from the scratch. And guess what? They've not employed you to come and start a new framework from the scratch. They need somebody that can work with the existing framework, improve on it, and as such. So that is this. I think this is pretty straightforward. The scenario is this. In order to access my account as a registered user, I want to be able to log in. Simple. And the scenario here that we want to test is successful login. So given I'm on the login page, when I enter valid credentials and I click the login button, then I should be redirected to the dashboard and I should see a welcome message. All right. Is anybody getting the explanation that I gave earlier about getting the redirection to the dashboard and validating the URL and getting a blank page? It doesn't stop there. I said you might need to check something else. If you want to check that it's not a blank page, check the welcome message. All right. So this is what the feature file. So in SpecFlow, we create a feature file. So please note that we create a feature file for our test scenarios. We create a feature file. So these feature files are written in Gherkin language. And this is what a feature file looks like. And once you have your feature file defined, you create or generate step definitions. So these Gherkin scenarios, they are linked to your step definitions. So these C# methods are what we call step definitions, because that is why the methods are the framework, are the C# methods where you're going to write your code. So just look at it like this. So if you look at this, note all these curly braces. Okay, not all these curly braces. That's what C# uses. Now look at these square braces. These are the methods. So given I am on the login page, in the previous script, in the previous slide, you see, given I am on the login page, will show you how to generate your step definition. So once you generate the step definition, it creates this structure for you. Can you see? A lot of the work is being done for you when you're using SpecFlow to start off, so you understand. So here, the comment is there to let you know what you need to do. So you write the automation code to navigate to the login page, given I'm on the login page. Here, when I enter valid credentials, write the automation code to enter valid credentials. Okay? When I click on the login button, write the automation code to click the login button. Then I should be directed to the dashboard. So, that's all you do here. You write the code, and that is you with your test. So in summary, so when you write your test, automation test in SpecFlow BDD with C#, so it bridges the gap between the business requirements and the actual implementation that also enables you as a QA to validate that the software is behaving as expected. As you can see, it is human readable, and the scripts you write can be used to validate the application. And also, sometimes you may need to do a demonstration of your test. They don't want to see these codes, okay? You'll be shown how to run the test in Visual Studio. This is what the wider audience want to see. They want to see, oh, they can read this, and they're like, okay, so this is all you write, and then you read this. It's clicking all over the pages. It's like you're doing magic. They are going to be wowed and amazed. Okay, they don't want to see the code. So I'll move on quickly. I've taken that black screen that is scaring some of us here out of the way. So this code is the code you are going to be writing in is C#. It's C#. Okay, Rose, I guess you get it. You get it. All right. Are you getting it? All right. Okay, so I also want to explain the concept of test data. Manually, when you're testing, you use test data. So when you're writing your automation test as well, you would still need to use your test data. Okay. Now, your test data is critical when you're automating tests. So these are the specific inputs. We have shown you examples of inputs. If you remember in the last two slides, when I was explaining the codes, send keys, I said send keys is to do what? Is anybody here? Does anybody here remember? What does send key do? Type. Fantastic. Thank you. So it refers to the specific input. Whatever you are typing in is a test data. Just note that. If you are typing anything in, username, Patricia E. Password, 123. It is a test data. When you're typing anything into the field, it is a test data. So as time goes on, your understanding of using the test data appropriately would start to get clearer and clearer. And the thing is, click is to enter. Thank you, Alex. So the more you use, the more you get familiar with it, even picking the simplest tests on your own, by the time you start to execute, the thing is just prepare your mind to enjoy it, okay? So, why do we need test data? it helps you to validate if your software is behaving as expected under different scenarios. And how do you get to find that out? For example, if you're testing successful login, if your test data, for example, patricia@gmail.com, right? That sounds like a valid email address. And I put the correct password as well. It validates it and I'm able to log in. That's a scenario. Now, if I put patricia@.com, that should throw an error because @.com is not a valid email. The system recognizes that @.com is not a valid email. So that is what one of the things that your test data does for you. It also helps you to cover a wide range of use cases. So in terms of coverage, by the time you're applying different test data and all that, especially when you start to use your equivalent partitioning and boundary value analysis, all the different testing techniques. If you're doing boundary tests or sometimes some random tests, you do a lot of random tests when you are testing the search fields. All right, and sometimes when you need to visualize data that stimulates real world scenarios. And a quick example of that is a list of products with different prices and description. Okay, so they are realistic test data. So these importance of the importance of tests data, reusability. You can reuse test data across multiple test cases, so you reduce any form of redundancy in your test framework. Then you have regression testing, where we know what regression testing is. So in this case, once you've identified your regression item, your existing test data will help you ensure that if there is any code change or a new deployment for anything, that new thing or any change that developer has implemented, your previously tested functionality are not impacted. So yeah. Types of test data, yeah, we need to touch on that. Okay, test data can be categorized into various types. So I know I was in one of the rooms the other day. I think that was there too, where I think it was Alex was talking about positive testing, negative testing, that the type that they've written positive and negative tests and all that. So it's important for you to be really clear when you're executing a positive test that you are using the right data set. Because it's garbage in, garbage out. You put the wrong data set, it's not going to give you a valid result. The same thing goes for the negative test. If you put the wrong data test for the negative, for a negative test data, you're actually not doing the negative test. So for the negative test data, you need to be able to create your own test data. All right. So those type of test data will be the test data that will trigger errors or exceptions in your test. So we call it, because we call a lot of errors and all that exceptions because when you are running your test manually, you really don't say exceptions. You say, oh, I've seen a bug, it's showing an error or so. So just so you get used to those buzzwords when you are running automation tests, you see exceptions. Sometimes you create a function to catch any sort of exceptions in your automation test. Then I've talked about boundary test data. That's the data that demonstrates the values at the boundaries. If they are acceptable inputs based on the data range, or they are not acceptable. So that's what you do at boundary testing. How many people understand they are aware of all the testing techniques that we have? Are you aware of all the testing techniques that we have? All right. Please, if you're not, go and do a bit of research on that and go and learn them. If you need clarification, speak with your your mentors. They do know, or put that question in the QA guild and somebody will pick it up. Now we have the random test data. I've mentioned that one. I talked about your search, majorly for exploratory testing. Exploratory testing doesn't mean just click around and put some random test data that eventually triggers an exception and you're not able to remember the test data that you've used. It also requires some attention to details if you have to type anything into the application. And I've talked about realistic test data as well, the one that mirrors real world scenarios. So, and I'm going to, we are getting to the end of it, assertions. So, what does assertion help you to do? It helps you to check and validate whether the application is functioning as expected. Sometimes you can assert the successful message displayed after you have completed your registration, or maybe after you have logged in, or the one that says, oh, you're registered, thank you for registering with us, we'll get back to you. Sometimes the messages are displayed, you can see them, or you've logged in successfully. If you've used the wrong test data, it will say, or your username or password is one of your username or password is incorrect, So assertion helps you check all those things. So they are like your validations. So that the assertions would they come in at the then clause of the given when then. So the code for assertion goes into the then. So every time you're writing your test, to click, to type, click, type, navigate, click, type. But the moment you get to then, what you are doing at that point is your assertions. You are asserting so and so on in that test. So it is really crucial. And there are, yeah, I won't bore you with this. You can find out read more, concepts of assertions. So you can use it to verify expected outcomes. We've talked about that. Actually, when somebody asks you, any layman asks you, what is software testing? All right. This is a simple explanation you can give. Software testing is a process where you verify a business requirement to check whether the actual results from your testing matches the expected result. If actual results matches expected results, that means the test has passed. I have done that testing as required by the business. If it failed, I have done that testing as required by the business, but the report I'll be giving for that one is that the business requirement is not met. Simple. So It helps you to detect defects. All right. So if it fails, what happens? Then it means that the expected result is not, the actual result is not matching the expected result, meaning that there's a discrepancy. All right. So what you do as a software tester, I help organizations find discrepancies. I help organizations validate their business requirements on systems. And I also help them to identify discrepancies between expected and actual outcomes of tests that are performed on the application. Simple explanation to any layman, they understand what software testing is. Then you have end-to-end validation. So this ensures that individual functions are working correctly and also every other function that works together with the system. That is end-to-end. A lot of times people use end-to-end like they just use it randomly. End-to-end testing means all functionalities individually are working. However, everything as a whole, the application, the entire application functions, they are working. So you are not restricted to individual functions in an end-to-end validation or testing, but you're saying that every function that the entire application holds, they are all working as intended. Whether it's you have a user journey or scenarios or use for different use cases, the entire application as a whole, that is end-to-end validation. That's sometimes it can be really rigorous. That's a kind of testing that is really, really needed to be done by testers. As a tester, even if you're handing over to people that will do user acceptance testing, once you have validated that individual functionalities are functioning correctly, it is also your duty to ensure that the entire application functions end to end. And you can work closely with the users as well to do their user acceptance testing of that system or the business analysis. So, also, in addition, assertions provide an objective evaluation of test results. So, any sort of human, yeah, sometimes if you're manually testing, any sort of human components, okay, is reduced because the code is written to understand. The code is written and is understood by the application on the test, and that confirmation is objective because the software understands any predefined criteria. So no human intervention can change any of that if you're writing automation tests. So the next thing I want to touch on so that we move quickly is to show you what an assertion looks like, just to get a bit of familiarity with it, because we are focusing on assertion like. So there are like the checkpoints, like I said earlier, and you see this, and what I've shown here are like 3 different types of assertion. So this is this data type, this is Boolean, all right, this is string, and this one is numeric. Double is numeric, okay, because what we are setting. So for the Boolean, what we assert is true or false, is true, okay? So this assertion checks if the user is successfully logging. If user is successfully logging, the assertion confirms is true. It's just simple. This is a simple C# method. Now, for the string, as you can see, the assert dot, because usually it goes start with assert dot. You can see the dot. It ensures that the login was successfully as expected. So in this case, what we want to check is after we've done the login, those are steps before we go to the assertions, which we defined and said, because the business the business requirement or acceptance criteria from the user story says that when the user has logged in, a message login successful is displayed. All right. So what you do in that test is to store the message as expected in a variable as expected message as a string, okay, and then because that is what we are expecting to see. Then the actual message is what you get when you are actually executing the test. Okay, I'm executing the test. Part is executing the test. I've logged in, I've entered the username, I've entered the password, and I need to check the system to check my automation test. I need that to check if the actual message displayed is like, if you imagine that all of this is not written in the code, if you imagine that my actual message is something like this, but we don't know what text, okay? So that is what it just looks like. But when the automation test run, and I put my assert dot equal, so it checks if the expected message is equal to the actual message. And if that is the same, that means my test passes. And in this case, this is a numeric assertion. Yeah, if you're working on a data application, a highly data-driven application, it's just like the same concept. However, because of this type of data type, so we're using a numeric assertion to calculate the total to match. We want to calculate this is the expected total, and this is the actual total. And application we actually, the functionality we are checking is the shopping cart. So my shopping cart is a total sum of what I have there, 99.99, whatever pounds or dollars or naira or cedis, whatever it is. And the instruction is to run this test. This is a method. Run this test. Calculate the total in my shopping cart. So this is what is calculate the total in my shopping cart. Do you understand? Check the login in my login page. So, and you do the assert equal. All of these are C#, okay? So you do this and check, all right? And the reason why we have used these three explanations is just so that you have an overview of the type of assertions that you could be saying when you start to do your test. But I can assure you, most times it will be this or this, based on the applications that you're working with, like this, something like this or this. So please take note of that. And we are getting to the end of a class. So we have benefits of automation testing. So what are the benefits? Faster test execution, we talked about that. It saves time. You can reuse the test scripts. Yeah, you can reuse the test scripts. In fact, you're working on a particular project, then and you are just so good in what you do, they say, okay, can you help us in another agile team to write some tests and all that? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If your framework is tight enough and the project is similar to what you're doing, if it's another web application project that has similar things like login, registration, search, or I'm just giving that as an example. You just need to analyze that so that you don't waste so much time. You can reuse the test scripts. So a code snippet that you've used on one project, you are able to reuse those automation test scripts, but you have to pay attention to the details and the peculiarity that are related to each of the project. Then you also have improved test coverage and also early detection of bugs. You detect bugs early when you run automation tests, and you are able to give a feedback to the business. So I'll move on quickly. So what are the common challenges of automation testing? Yeah, as beautiful and as good as it starts, initial setup time can be really challenging. If you are experienced, like when your mentors start to support you with the framework setup, they are able to do that because they have been through that initial setup time experience before. So even out there in companies and organizations out there, when you are setting up from the scratch, and the complexity of the application as well can make it more challenging. I remember I was working on an Azure cloud project. It was more of an infrastructural project, and I was expected to automate that. All right, that one is another story for another time. So your knowledge and exposure to applications as well, it matters a lot, because what I realized on that project, and it was also a learning curve for me as well, because I went online, I'd never seen anything or anyone automating that unless you are just writing strictly C# codes. Strictly C. It wasn't a Selenium automation effort that was required for me to automate that. So what did I do at the end of the day? I had to make the developer my friend. Because I needed to deliver. All right. So initial setup time is always a challenge. Then maintenance effort. To maintain an automation framework as well. Efforts can be in terms of the experience of the person who is going to be maintaining it, or what it costs, how much it's costing the company to keep the automation test running, because sometimes you have to set up the test in the CI to run overnight, and all of these things cost money. And again, not all automation testing, there's that school of thought that believes that it's not suitable for all testing scenarios. Yes, I agree with that. Based on my experience, some test scenarios, you would do some manual testing quicker, if you're more experienced, and you may not need to do automation tests for that. And most of the time, it might have to do with some sort of migration projects that you just you don't need you need little or no automation, because the time it will take you to do the setup for that kind of testing, say for example an infrastructural kind of project, the time it will take from you is even more than is more than the time it will take you to just quickly do the manual testing and move on to the next project. Because before you start thinking of setting it up, you you might end up getting yourself blocked because of security compliance issues. Well, you say, well, not there won't be issues, or because of security compliance requirements that the organization need to put in place. So why do you want to? Because the security guys, they are not going to leave um, their doors open to attackers because a tester wants to automate something. It's a big risk for them. All right. So that's it. So that is us for tonight. And what are your key takeaways? We've talked about the definition and importance of automation testing, talked about different types of automation testing. We've talked about what test scripts and test data are in automation. And we've looked at common automation testing tools and frameworks. And we've talked about the benefits of automation testing. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed the class. I'd encourage that you do further reading before you get hands-on to start working on your automation. So, and before I ask if anyone asks questions, so you note what you need to prepare. So you would need you need to have a laptop, good working laptop, and that is all that is required, with the right size, storage size. So I think if you're not using your laptop for a lot of things, or if you have a lot of things on your laptop, I'll send you a recommendation of the laptop you need, the size of your RAM and all that, because you need a working laptop, really good one, for you to be able to do this and enjoy it. Because one of the things I realize is if your laptop is slow, or you have a lot of things on your laptop, you've not cleaned it up and all that, by the time you even start to download Visual Studio, you're having challenges and you're giving up already. So please, anything that would cause an impediment for you, yeah, you need to ensure that you get it out of the way. Thank you very much tonight, everyone. Again, my name is Patricia Emmanuel, and I do hope you've enjoyed the class. Any questions? You can stop recording.